Hey, Chamber members, Alan Waters here, your Marketing and Communications Coordinator with the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and your Words of Wisdom podcast. Today, I am joined by
Henry Bass.
Henry. Tell me, what's your company, those kind of things.
Sure. Appreciate being here, Alan. Thanks for this opportunity. Our company is Automation Creations, and we are in Blacksburg at the Corporate Research Center. We specialize in custom software development. The quick overview I tell people is that we're ghostwriters for your good software ideas. So we do a lot of things like the Blacksburg Transit mobile app, everything from a small Microsoft Excel macro or shortcut to 7-year projects that involve a lot of upkeep and maintenance. So we have a lot of great software developers, many from Virginia Tech, but I'm also a past board chair of the Montgomery Chamber from December 2019 through that wonderful year of 2020. And I have a volunteer nonprofit called River Robotics Association and active in our Boy Scouts. So enjoying staying busy.
I get it. I'm that way too. I can't seem to stand still most of the time. So I learned a lot about ACI just then because I didn't know most of those things. Before we dive into that anymore, tell me, this is my first question for everyone. What does success mean to you? And this doesn't just have to be on the professional side. It can be on the personal side as well. But what does success mean to you at its core?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. It's given me some time to think about this. And for me, success is doing what you want to do and loving it. And so from our perspective in business, I enjoy very much having the reputation of being fair and honest, delivering what we're going to say we will deliver. But more than that, the proof of that is when other people refer you and trust you enough to say, Automation Creations will take care of what you need. So, success can be defined in a lot of ways. I think Maslow and his hierarchy of needs gets into the academic side of that, but I feel very blessed to be at a point in my life where I can give back, and I do enjoy giving back. I enjoy doing it quietly. So a customer recently sent us a text that said, we appreciate what ACI does. You guys are like the special forces of web development, quiet professionals. I said, bingo, that's what we're after. We want to be the ghostwriters who quietly are in the background, people that you can rely on. But it's hard to promote quiet people, so you have to be able to let others tell that story.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did you come to that idea of success, that meaning of success? Because I feel like that is a journey all on its own that, especially for those that are starting their career journeys, they see success differently. What was that evolution?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The journey to shaping that is something that shapes over time for sure. But I think it's when you go to bed at night, are you happy with what you've gotten done for the day, and what would make an incremental improvement? And certainly through the educational process, through hands-on work, that sort of thing, if you're always striving to make an improvement, that involves self-evaluation, that involves critical evaluation of your work product, whatever that is, that can have a huge impact on the vision for what success means for you and your partner, both in life and in professional settings. So I think through past service with the military, was a reservist for 28 years with a couple of active duty tours and that sort of thing, plus some leadership work with a group called LX Council. That's a peer mentoring group, a CEO group that I help run. I think success continues to evolve, but where I am right now, that vision involves a lot of giving back and doing that quietly, because that is rewarding. And when it's not rewarding anymore, we stop doing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched on a couple of things along your path. I use high school as a big point for a lot of people. What did you want to do in high school, and how did that end up to where you are today?
That's a good question. I think in high school I was excited about engineering, math. I participated in some of the after-school projects that were military adjacent. Was kind of exploratory groups in physical fitness and leadership, student government, that sort of thing, all involved. And I thought, yeah, that they would go to leadership. I think I honestly felt I was destined to work for a big company because that's what the majority of people in the high school were doing. So I did not imagine myself as a small business owner really until the mid-'90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at that point, what was the thing that made you take that leap?
Taking that leap. Well, in my particular case, it was a series of bad bosses, and we can define bad a lot of different ways. You know it when you see it. If you're not treated well or fairly or something like that. In my case, I wore a wire for the FBI and helped them convict someone who was truly a bad boss.
Yeah, I could see that's definitely something that would push me.
I considered that a career-limiting move and said, you know what, this might be a good time to go out on my own.
Yeah, it might be hard in interviews to follow that up. How'd your last job end?
With a federal conviction.
Oh, goodness. Well, after starting your own business, take me a little along that journey into those first few years. I feel like are, I wouldn't say the hardest, because I think any part of small businesses, you're going to have ebbs and flows. But what took it from those first few years into growing to where you are now?
Yeah. I think first few years, before making that leap, setting out to do my own small business, we had this idea. Everybody's got an idea, but saw a need in the market for a online materials database, an engineer's reference site for where they could look up, hey, I need to know the density of this metal, and I want to see if it's compatible with this ceramic or something like that. And that always involved a day or a half-day trip to the Virginia Tech Library. At least we had that we could, a nearby reference that we could look that sort of thing up, but needed a consolidated, easy place, make that appealing to small business, because there were some big databases like that, and you had to go to 3 weeks of training and pay a huge fee and that sort of thing. And the web was really just starting to become available, and they were just starting to connect databases to it so that you could have a live query information. So that was what we wanted to do, but we knew it was going to take a while before it was successful, so we needed something to pay the bills. And a friend of a friend knew someone who was military adjacent, a contracting position to help write help files and install software for the military nearby here, but also up in D.C. And so we said, great, that could be, with very modest income, that would at least keep us all afloat and keep our friends together that wanted to develop this project with us. And so our first version of MatWeb.com, online materials database, came out about a year later. We had like 500 materials. And everybody who came in and did a query, when we got their name, if they registered, we made it optional, we'd send them a pin. We'd say, thank you, appreciate you being a MatWeb user. Mm-hmm. We'd send that off to them. But had that bill payer in the background where I was doing help files and technical documentation. And at some point, the military asked us, this software that you're helping with, could you put that on the web like you're doing with your materials database and make this interactive so we didn't have to go around and install this all over the place and do a lot more support calls? I said, yes, we can. And then we scratched our heads and thought about it a bit and figured out ways to do that with growing a little bit. And at the same time, I think friends and associates realized that we were doing stuff on the web and would ask us to do commercial work. So there were kind of three legs to automation creations: the MatWeb materials database, the military contractor work, and then some of the commercial work for just websites that we would hope would turn into the deeper software projects. And so all of those kind of coming together and just making sure we executed well on those. And I think the number one thing in my case was that the people I brought on weren't just educated for that. We made sure that they had a passion for it. What do you like to do in your free time? It's one of my favorite interview questions. And when somebody says, oh, well, in my free time, I'm writing a program that goes out and analyzes football statistics and makes projections about, and then they'll go into a story about this, or I'm helping my sister write a catalog of music databases or something like that. And so they're passionate about software, and if they could get paid for it at the same time, that's a win for all of us. Those have been the employees that stick around the longest and enjoy this the most.
I feel like that is something that I see a lot, is that when you've got someone who comes in for an interview that is passionate, they are, to me, a better candidate than someone who comes in and has all of the technical knowledge in the world, but doesn't have passion, or is just not something you want to hang out with and work with on a daily basis. For you as a business owner, for going in and hiring people in this field, what are the important parts you would suggest for someone looking at this industry?
Well, I think one of the first things to any business owner is kind of what we did. Don't quit your day job until you've got some kind of revenue stream out there that's going to keep you afloat. And the difference between being afloat and being at your peers in whatever industry you're stepping off into is a heart-to-heart you and your family need to have, if that's the case. But then in terms of software development business, it's, as an industry, it's a low overhead business. You just have people that, so you got to get the right people. But then it's also a matter of making sure they have the right tools, the right incentives. You treat your people fairly, and that you want them to stick around. We tend to get involved in longer term projects, and so I have to make sure that we've got folks who are satisfied not just with the compensation, but the future, their participation, and the diversity of what they do. A lot of us crave a variety of projects, and that's other than having a bad boss. The second reason to leave a company would be that they get stagnant and they're not making progress. So with those three legs of ACI, the commercial, the materials database, and the government work, we have variety for employees. If I'm tired of only working on one thing, I want to do a more diverse thing, we can help them do that. So that's been good, because a lot of the projects we work on take 8 to 12 months just to come up to speed on all the complexities of, for example, the Pentagon's budget database, or the entire transit system and nuances of Blacksburg Transit, because there's a lot underneath those layers.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many pieces that I feel like people don't think about how much goes into each individual piece on a website and all of that goes into that database. Looking into that a little bit further, what do you think is a common misconception about your industry?
Common misconception about our industry. That's a good question. I think one of the misconceptions is that, when we started, a lot of folks had to be convinced that they needed a website. No, I'm good. I've got my ad in the yellow pages. I'm just fine. And as that pivoted, there was a lot of folks who are like, no, I don't need a web page. I've got a high school friend who can do this for me. And there's a 13-year-old kid who's going to take care of my webpage. So the item people can overlook is that, yes, you might get this done quickly, cheaply, right at first, but who's going to maintain it, and how are they going to keep that going year after year? I found an offshore company that can knock this out real fast, or has an out-of-the-box solution. Okay. Where do you see it going in the future, and how expandable is that low-cost solution for you? And sometimes there's good products out there, and we can be a trusted partner to say, that one looks good for what you're after, and have those conversations, because we are not eager to launch into big software projects all the time. We do like helping people with good advice. You know what? We could write a lot of custom software. We could cost $250,000, or there's this $20,000 solution right here if you wanted to implement that.
With that, at what point as a business owner did you learn that it's okay at times to say no? You don't have to always say yes to the next project.
That's a great question. That continues to be something we're all learning about, right? And you look back on some of the projects that were not necessarily failures, but that were particularly painful because the customer was never satisfied, or the objectives kept changing through no one's fault. You're just in a discovery process. And so you overcome that by being a partner with the customer and involving them as much as possible in design reviews. And here's our goals. We call them sprints that we're going to accomplish in the next 2 weeks. Come look at this with us. We think we know what we want to do in the set after that, but let's agree on those goals and objectives. And as long as we're continuing to meet these, well, that's great when you find a customer that works with you on that. But when they come in and say, we've got to do all this and our budget is right here, it's like, well, okay, I think we can get there, and our vision today is just fine. But if you make changes along the way, that's going to affect the budget. And so that can be tough. And we try to work with people on that. So the bad experiences on that are probably just folks that maybe don't partner with you in that process to the right level of involvement. And we understand, we get it. People have budgets. We need to obey those. We need to obey time commitments and that sort of thing. But when we run into problems, that's where you can really test and find out what the person is like. So I wish I had a book of red flags that we could identify, but sometimes it just becomes obvious when you're back and forth with someone trying to sign a contract or trying to agree on the specifications or that sort of thing. You want to get as much of that done up front as you can, but if we're too deep in the weeds and we haven't even started to work, that's maybe a red flag.
I'm a big believer in, especially when you're in a client-based model, when you're talking to a client, they're not just interviewing you. You've got to interview them. They've got to be a good client, because otherwise you're going to work harder than you should in some of those situations, and it's going to not end up being a great situation for either one of you.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and then when we get back, I'm going to talk a little bit, or I'm not going to talk, I'm going to ask a little bit about adaptability.
ACI employees love to write code, so rather than show you SQL queries and Java objects, here are 4 examples of great customers ACI has helped over the last 28 years. The Blacksburg Transit mobile app allows users to plan their route. It has route schedules, adjusted arrival times, and even tracks where the buses are currently. BT uses the back-end stats to dynamically add or remove a bus from specific routes. ACI helped Spectrum Brands for the last 6 years with Tetra Aquarium Management. Both fish tank owners and pet shops use this for fish identification, water testing, and remote control of aquarium lights and feeders. Long before content management systems such as WordPress were a thing, ACI created a dynamic pay site that delivered insights, videos, and analysis that only Coach Beamer could offer under his brand. Finally, ACI has certified system administrators that provide local network and server support. ACI is here for you and glad to be in this community.
All right, we are back, and speaking with adaptability in technology, you said you came into this in the 90s when, internet was getting popular. How has that change affected your business over the past 30 years? Because the capabilities of internet now are certainly not what they were in the 90s.
Sure, yeah. And it's constantly changing, and it's going to be completely different in the next 5 years. So I think that's comes back to having great people who are adaptable. The word we like to use is sponges. Employees who are just thirsty for knowledge and always continuously learning and developing has been a key for us for growing with the technology, because it is changing all the time. And I think we try to incentivize that and talk about each certification you get that's relevant to any of the projects that we're doing. We increase your salary by $1,000. We pay for your training material, that sort of thing. And we try to incentivize that with our employees, but also we ask our employees to push a little bit. If we're in one of those positions that's a long-term contract, whether it's government or whatever, it's never in our best interest to prolong the engagement. Yes, we bill by the hour, but in spite of that, we've always found that when we find ways to bring new technology, not brand new, but relatively new and tested technology into the equation that save time, there's always more work to be done. We've never worked ourselves out of a job because when we save money and we partner that with the customer and share in those successes together, it truly helps, and we can help each other. So we're not just there to bill hours; we're there to help improve the efficiency of the entire operation. So I think that's an important part as we evolve, and certainly, the hot words right now are artificial intelligence and where that's going. And there's some good tools that are coming from that. There's a lot of legal challenges that are coming up and considerations as everybody has concerns. But I think using those safely and being aware of where we're going and using it where it makes sense, we'll get there.
Yep. We actually have later this month lunch and learn on artificial intelligence, so I'm looking forward to that. But I do want to ask, what do you have to say to those that see AI, see ChatGPT, see these tools that think, oh, I didn't used to need a website, but now that can do it for me. I don't really need to go somewhere. What do you think those limitations and what people should be aware of?
Yeah, I think those are great tools, and they could make a website. It's going to look a lot like some other websites because that's what its learning model is, right? So it's been trained on those. So if you want something that's unique, which most of us do, we want to stand out, we want to find a niche that's right for us or that expresses the right vibe. Maybe you can get a 50, 60, 70% solution from a tool that gives you a good starting place. And that's really important. I think we welcome that opportunity because a lot of times a customer comes in and says, I want a website and it does this and that. And we say, okay, here it is. They go, well, that's not what I wanted. Okay, what do you want? I don't know, but I don't want that. Okay, so let's iterate on this and that sort of thing. So if we can do that part of the iteration faster, and we do try, we have some tools to help with that, whether it's a catalog of existing sites or something like that, and kind of work with the customer and help somebody see that, yes, this is, for example, a church's website that talks about their faith, but don't you see how this could apply to your nonprofit that deals with memory care? And some people can't get over, but there's a church in that picture. Yeah, but this could be a different picture. And this could, here's the framework kind of thing. So you want to help people vision that. Sometimes we mock that up and that sort of thing. And I think AI could help us do that a little bit faster. There's obviously legal questions there about who owns that content and that sort of thing. But if done appropriately and if you've licensed your own AI model, I think there's room for that could save everybody time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I use ChatGPT, I think, every single day here at the office, but I've been telling people you have to use it thoughtfully. You can't type something in, put what it gives you immediately out there. You have to make your adjustments. You have to work at it. But you also have to know the right way to use the tool. Just like any other tool, if you're not using it the correct way, you can get big ethical, legal implications.
Or just sloppy work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The amount of times I've read "In the Heart of," and I'm like, that's written by AI because, oh, goodness, the amount of times for our annual dinner script, for example, I'd be working on it for the bios, and they'd be like, "Nestled in the heart of," and I'm like, stop it. Stop using those words. Being around Virginia Tech, Radford, the New River Community College, what is that location to not just the education, but the technology aspects? What does that do for your business, and how has that affected your business?
Oh, that's a great question. We love this area. We absolutely wouldn't want to be anywhere else, and it's the combination of everything, right? Virginia Tech, New River, Radford, and when I said New River, I meant New River Community College, as well as the New River's influence on this region to make it just a beautiful valley, is a very high quality of life. And this area's always had a technology stronghold, albeit a small area. We're no Silicon Valley. We don't want to be a Silicon Valley. But in as far as, going back to the early days of the internet, the early 90s, late 80s, the Blacksburg Electronic Village. Blacksburg was one of the first regions in the world where they adopted a plan of let's try to get everybody an email address. Let's have free access to a web and discussion communities and that sort of thing, so that we became one of the most wired towns on the planet pretty quickly through leadership there. And it's good because it's a nice small size to do that in, that sort of thing. Plus you have a lot of open, receptive people who are connected through academia as well as through a willingness to share and to learn. So that mindset has been excellent without having a big city feel or all the infrastructure challenges that come with big city, as well as the downsides, because that's one of the things we talk about with our employees is we work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's what we're after. We're not after 60, 80 hours like a lot of software companies. We want you to enjoy quality of life because we're in it for the long haul. And happy employees make long-term employees.
I really, really appreciate that. I'm a big advocate for. I want you to love what you do. I love what I do. It is still work. You've got to be paid adequately. You can't get taken advantage of, and you can't sustain 60 hours a week forever.
That's right.
I remember working a job that for 3 weeks in a row, I worked 80 hours a week, and I was met with, well, you can't do any more overtime. That's not allowed. And it was like, well, the job's still got to get done. And they were like, yeah, but you can't go into overtime. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do?
I think you know what I want you to do.
Yeah. Well, ask me on paper.
Right.
With this area, part of the reason I chose here was just how, like you said, there's so many pieces of it that feel advanced, but it also feels like a local community. It feels like a smaller community. And you were talking about giving back and giving back quietly. I'm going to ask that you not be so quiet right now because I want to hear more about that. But what impact does that have on a company?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's obvious benefits to being volunteer-minded and philanthropic in that it helps your reputation. It helps advance the causes you believe in. In our case, we're big STEM advocates. Naturally, we're excited about science, technology, engineering, and math. I think competitive robotics, particularly at an early age, is a good way to get people interested in that. And honestly, it's a little bit selfish because if I can get people in this area interested in STEM, they're going to make great employees because they've got roots in Montgomery County and the New River Valley area. So we hope so. That's okay to go away for college if it's not right here, but we hope you'll come back and be passionate about it. So there's some self-serving in that, but being able to do that is a good way. My background in mechanical engineering makes robotics a natural fit. It's always been around software applied to mechanical engineering. So it's a great fit. So most of what we do at ACI is 100% or 98% software. Mm-hmm. We have done some Internet of Things and real-world applications. Those are the most fun when it's controlling real-world environments besides spreadsheets. So getting to do that with robotics and teaching other people to love that is a lot of fun. My son grew up doing that, but both my boys grew up doing a lot of that, and my youngest son now has taken over team coaching for one of our robotics teams and has done really well for 5 years doing that now, including 2 years while he was still at Virginia Tech. So we're having a lot of fun doing it, and I think that's the key, as we've said it in a couple of times, having fun doing that. So robotics, I mentioned the Scouts BSA program. Both my wife and I are involved with a Cub Scout Pack 145 and a Boy Scout Troop 145. Both of those have done really well. and have good bunch of folks that keep very involved in it. It's all through volunteers. New River Robotics Association, our nonprofit. I'm a little bit involved with the Roanoke-Blacksburg Technology Council, and I've been on their board since about 2005. And then certainly enjoy work with the Montgomery Chamber of Commerce. Lots going on there. I think as a board member, I'm required to step back for a year after being on the board for so long. So I've taken that hiatus and gotten back involved a little bit with the awards committee, a little bit with some of their other activities of the chamber. But all of that nonprofit work is made possible by keeping the day relatively open. I have good leadership growing up in automation creations that allows me to step back a little bit and do these things, and a family that loves it. So it's all good.
With your employees and everybody that's working with ACI, I know you said you've got some incentives for when they're going out and getting additional certifications. Is there anything that you do encouraging them with giving back to the community and pieces like that?
That's a good question. I've been thinking about that, so I hope this isn't too widely listened to, because if this idea doesn't work, then my employees will hold me to it. But, thinking about donation matching with our employees, and I'm actually going to talk to the Community Foundation of the NRV about that here tomorrow. Great group of organized nonprofits, so that if our employees are passionate about something, we want to share that with them and help encourage them to do well. We've tried to make time available. Is it formalized in our employee handbook? I think it is. I think we have a couple of days compensated volunteer time, but also we try to know our employees well enough to know what they're passionate about. And that's been one of our tenets. We have been as large as a 55-person company, but I'm really happy in the 20 to 30 person range, because at that level I know every employee very well. And when I've gotten bigger than that, you have to have management layers. And that's okay. That's part of every company's growth. But in our particular industry, it doesn't necessarily scale. You don't get a magically higher multiple of profits, because it is really much based on how many hours in a day we can work for our clients. And we're pretty happy at 20 to 30 employees. It's a good number. We retain a lot of agility by being able to know each other very well, and who's the best person to do this job, and know what the employees are passionate about, so that whether it's literacy volunteers, we've got some employees interested in that, the scouting programs, some in robotics, that sort of thing, a lot of church involvement, that's always important. So being able to recognize what employees want to do, because if that's what they care about, I care about it too. And that's all part of making sure that folks are happy with where they are and want to stay around a long time, because our employees are worth it.
I love hearing that. Where can people find Automation Creations? What's the website? What's the best way to contact? Can you give us all of that?
Yeah, aciwebs.com, aciwebs.com is our web address. And then my email is Henry, Henry, at aciwebs.com. That's the best way to reach out to us. But come see us over at the Corporate Research Center. We're in Building 2020 over there by the great big fish pond. We call it great big. It's big to us. Nice fish pond over there, and up at the top of the stairs. Be glad to make coffee, sit down, and first consultation is always free. And enjoy talking not just about software products, but business ideas. We're often new business startups often involve a software move or some sort of software component to them. So we're happy to talk with folks about new business ideas and recommend best places to go if it's not us.
Great. Is there anything else you want to leave people off with? Any final pieces of advice?
Oh, just maybe a request that we've got a growing base of competitive robotics groups around this area, and we need volunteers all the time. And it takes about 70 to 120 volunteers to do a robotics tournament. And we've been able to do that this year coming back from COVID and that sort of thing. It's our second year doing the full flight of K through 12 robotics competitions in this area, thanks to a lot of great volunteers. But it's a fun way to get involved, see what it's about, learn what the intricacies or gotchas might be before you launch into your own team or put your own children into it. So come volunteer for a day or two, and we've got a lot of programs to help folks do that. So we enjoy that as a good start for whether it's software or physics or mechanical engineering, whatever your interests are. There's probably some component in there that fits with robotics teams, including marketing and branding and public speaking. Wind up all being part of the sneaky program that we call robotics, that we're actually teaching teamwork and public relations skills.
What goes into a robotics tournament? Because honestly, the first thing my mind goes to is the fighting robots that you used to see on TV.
Yeah. So I've got a little soapbox about the fighting robots. Great fun. I went and saw the BattleBots Arena in Las Vegas. They do a great show and tear it up. But those, when you think about it, are really radio-controlled cars with flamethrowers. There's not a lot of programming software. They do some on the controls, but there's not what we call autonomy. That is, I want to push a button and I want to see the robot go out and do something. So we start with that at the kindergarten level. And whether it's just a cooperative design that K through third grade makes, or in first Lego League in the fourth through the roughly ninth or 10th grade, there's a Lego robot that they pre-program with missions on a table. So what goes on is that they get this competition series of challenges in early August, and by mid-November, we bring all those teams together, that same table, and they need to punch the right button on their robot, and it goes off and does missions and scores. They have 2.5 minutes. They get 3 tries to do it. They take the best score of the 3, but also they get judged on a research project, an innovation project that says, here's this problem. Right now, this past year's challenge has been combining STEM with the arts. How can you use STEM to promote what you're passionate about in arts and apply some technology there to help other people enjoy an artistic experience? My wife's team was the Terrific Turtles. I've probably got that name wrong, but it is Turtles. And they worked on recycling grocery shopping bags into a usable cloth and making dresses and fashion wear from this. And they enjoyed doing that a lot, and because they enjoyed it, they were passionate about it. And they met with Virginia Tech fashion design team. They hung out at Sugar Magnolias here in town and asked people what they thought for their feedback on their fashion program, and then of course wore their dresses that you wouldn't know were made from shopping bags. It wound up being a pretty cool material, and they wound up getting first place in the Virginia DC FLL competition for the state level for their innovation project. So that's the presentation and innovation part that goes into there. Plus they talk to the judges about their robot, and in that session they judge a little bit about teamwork. So there's 4 aspects that they get judged on when they come together. It's a one-day event. We've been doing it at Blacksburg High School, or sometims one of the Christiansburg schools. Montgomery County Public Schools has definitely been a partner in this. And we couldn't do it without their support. So it's a public-private partnership that has been found to really work. And it gives kids something that they don't have otherwise. So there's not a lot of team-based activities in our current curriculum, and I think the pendulum's changing that way. But you asked for an overview of the competition. I won't shut up about how great they are. You wouldn't believe it unless you come and see it, because it's a whole lot of fun. We just had one at Blacksburg High School, and that's the big one with 120-pound robots, 6 at a time on a big basketball court. That's the closest one to a BattleBots type thing, but our objective's a little bit different. Instead of destroying each other, we're lifting each other up. And there will be collisions. You do see these kind of interactions happening. It's very exciting when it does. But 6 big robots on a basketball court, 2.5-minute matches, all day Saturday, most of the day Sunday, is our biggest event. And then we have smaller things upstairs for the K through 8th grade type age range. So it winds up being a real fun thing. The schedule then is that the challenges for early elementary are released in August and early September. They compete starting in December or November, December, and then the bigger high school challenge, it is released the first Saturday in January, and they compete typically right at the first weekend of March, right when Virginia Tech spring break hits. And then the World Championship happens in Houston right now, and that's typically the third week in April, so that's coming up. But that's only a small percentage of teams that get to go to that. So for the most part, our season just finished, but it's time to get teams together right now and start planning for the next year. There's summer things we can do to get excited about it. But that day of competition takes the judges, the referees, the cuers, the people who help get the team in the right line at the right time to get to get to their event. Every part of it, feeding folks, greeting folks, and making sure everybody's in the right place is a concerted effort, but done by a lot of people who really enjoy doing it.
Well, that's awesome. I will do my best to get out there and check it out next time it's around. Thank you so much for being with us today, Henry. I really appreciate it. Thank you, members, for listening. We will be back in 2 weeks with our next guest. In the meantime, make sure to go out, connect, engage, and prosper.